the largest one. But because he loves the views up here so much, everything is named for the view. So we have Casa del Sol behind you. Why they're coming to House of the Sun? From that balcony right there, you get a phenomenal view of the sunset over the Pacific horizon line. Now, casitas were always intended to be diverse families' little summer vacation homes. But once William Randolph Hearst moves into the main house, Casa Grande, he's going to open these up for his guests. Primarily those that are coming up with their families. You want to make sure you're bringing your family up here, you got a little bit of privacy. So, and he's entertaining the most noble personalities of his time. Think Walt Disney, he's a guest in Casa del Sol. Bob Hope, the comedian, remember Bob Hope? Bing Crosby, you know, the road to Bali, all of that? Yeah, Bing Crosby stayed in there with his family. My favorite guest that stays in Casa del Sol, astrophysicist, astronomer, Edwin Hubble. He made the Hubble telescope after him. He's a guest that stayed in this casino. And even if you're a worker for Mr. Hearst newspaper, like his gospel column,
Потом.
so it goes to show, I mean, he treated his workers just as well as he's treating his guests up here. So it's one thing to have the money and the means to make California a dream home a reality. You got to have an architect that shares in that passion with you. So which is why, for my money, the true superstar of our story is that architect Julia Morgan.
Не зарастет
She's the
народная
first
тропа.
licensed female architect here in the state of California. She was the first woman to graduate from that very
Я бы больше бы
School of Fine
походил.
Arts in Paris, France, the École des Beaux-Arts. But she's also an expert in the use of steel reinforced concrete. Why is that something of necessity living here in California? What are we known for? There it is, earthquakes, right? What jump-started her career? That 1906 earthquake in San Francisco. The resulting fires that just ravaged the Bay Area. So this is a woman that is very familiar with the extended damage that can be brought about by earthquakes, wildfires, and mudslides. And when she's taking on this project for Mr. Hearst, she's already like in the twilight of her career, right? They're just getting started up here when most people are thinking of slowing down. He's 56, she's 47. This was only intended to be a 2-year collaboration. Now on that audio recording that you heard
У
from
тебя глаза получше, чем у меня. Что вот на горизонте белое?
about how long they spent working on this project together? 20 years, practically 3 decades, right? 28 years to do everything that you see. But I really want to run home the point that, I mean, just because they're spending all that time, she gets that. She says it's got everything to do with the changeableness of mind. It's constantly changing his mind up here. You guys are at an estate that is never fully realized. It's never completed. In fact, if you look on the terrace where we're standing right here, look on either side. You guys notice these octagons? Right? These were intended to have massive marble fountains on top of them, like that fountain behind me here. And where that fountain has a reproduction of the very famous Donatello statue. This is David after he's slain the giant Goliath. You can see he's kind of standing naked and proud on the giant severed head right there. Imagine having marble fountains where Nike's on top of them, or the Discopolis is on top of that. Right? Now the next spot I'm going to take you, I mean, this is going to give you a true sense of this man's changeableness of mind, because we're going to go to that outdoor pool, the Neptune pool. That would prove to be a favorite gathering spot for his guests. But originally that area, that was intended to be a rose garden. It started out as a rose garden with a very small and reflective pond. Right? He's gonna tell Julia Morgan, I want a pool, and you're gonna see what she's able to do for him. This is gonna take her a span all about 12 years just to do that pool right there. How are we doing so far, folks? You okay? Any questions about the computer that's behind me? Just keep in mind, small house, right? Compared to Casa Grande that I'm going to show you later on. All right. And then a friendly reminder, just make sure we don't leave some more cars. The depth varies. Where we're standing, this is the shallow portion of the pool. Comes in about a meter. It's a little over 3.5 feet deep. Opposite end where Lori has her group, that's the deepest part of the pool, where it comes in about 3 meters. It's a little over 10 feet deep on that side. Now, it's a flat bottom pool, meaning underneath all those marble tiles that you see, you're also going to find the darker tiles. In fact, this is the state stone of California, the serpentine. Beneath all of that, there's like a boiler room. And you would heat the pool by burning oil to about 70, 75 degrees. Yeah. There's no longer needed anymore. You don't want to fall in that. You're going to be like home into the ocean. So once they get home with it, this is a man. You're not going to get sense of it already, right? He's having all this wealth up. And he really wants to stress upon his guests that are coming up. And again, these are the movers, the shakers of that time, that era, that he's so much more than a man of means, a man of wealth. He is an avid art collector. And you are getting a sense of that with the art collection that you're going to see displayed throughout the estate. Just even along the pool, an area that would be used for recreation, right? He told me to so when he tells his architect, look, I'm not having a record of this pool, well, how is this the money that he provides his architect to be able to make that a reality? So I want you to think of his architect. But when it is favorite French sculptor, Charles Cassou. So Mr. Cassou, he's responsible for the Art Deco staff collection of the ladies here with the swans, the little baby angels that are clinging on to the necks of the swans. He's responsible for the Birth of Venus statue and back over there. So here you are, you're in an area of recreation, but you're surrounded from art coming from all over, different eras, different time periods, but presented in such a way to make us feel like we're in ancient Rome right now. How did Julia Morgan do? Well, pretty good, all right, pretty good right here, all right? 12-year project for her. 1924 all the way up to 1936 to build this pool for Mr. Hurst. Why does it take it so long? He's never happy with the size of it. I'm a big believer that if the man was alive today, this pool would probably still be big. Right? It undergoes 3 different versions, each one more elaborate and larger than the previous one. But I gave you those dates, 1924 to 1936, for a specific reason. Let's see, who remembers? What would happen in 1929? There it is, the stock market crashes, right? So just to give you guys a sense of where Hearst's mindset is at, when the men of Wall Street are flinging themselves out of the windows of their buildings because they can see the writing on the wall, there's a depression that's coming and it's going to be bad, it's going to be ugly. What's Mr. Hurst, what's he preoccupying his mind with? The second version of this pool in that indoor pool. Alright, so let's kind of, again, let's keep this all in relation to the time, what's going on. It's nice to get kind of blinded by the flash and the gleam, isn't it? But then we have a propensity to forget. And it's extremely important that we don't forget, because those past lessons, they will be learned. Alright, how are we doing so far, friends? You okay? Come up the steps over here. I want to give you a bird's eye view of the pool. as a correspondent to Hearst and his newspapers, Winston Churchill is staying in that casita. Famous movie stars of that time like Greta Garbo, Clark Gable, Marlene Dietrich, Betty Davis. These names, they sound familiar. We still remember these people, right? Good to hear, because again, these are the people that Hearst wants to entertain, right? He wants to bring up the friends of his movie star companion, Marion Davies, and give her friends an opportunity to kind of brush elbows and hobnob and network with some of his socialite friends. That's why he's doing this, right? But he wants to share his art collection with all of them. And this is where we also get a chance to see the extent of Julia Morgan, his architect. Her thumbprint is all over the place. Even on some of the pieces that we took to Granite, like her tie. She had a company based out of Berkeley. Her firm was in San Francisco. Those are her designs that wrap the outer face of the casita. Now also, one of the many hats that she's wearing for Mr. Hearst is she's serving as his landscape architect. Keep in mind, the only trees that are native in this area is like the bay laurel tree in front of me here, this live oak right beside me. Everything else that you guys see, from the Italian cypresses, the Mexican fog palms, the Spanish Canary Island palm trees, these are probably 20, 30 feet tall. You can see they've really taken off with the Mediterranean climate that we have in this part of California right here. But they had to go all up that winding road that you guys took on the country. Right? She would say on a good day, and I probably guarantee today she'd consider it a good day. She'd say depending upon the weather conditions, but also the conditions of the resources that we're using. Sometimes it's trucks, sometimes it's tractors and cranes, sometimes it's even horse and buggy. She says depending upon all of that, she'd be able to move anywhere between 60 to 65 tons for Mr. Hearst. That's a good day. They got to move up several tons of topsoil to plant all these trees that you folks see, right? And they changed the topography up here. She says when they began this project with the head landscaper Nigel Keith, there was nothing but rattlesnakes and rocks up here. Right? They changed the topography by planting over 70,000 different species of plants, flowers, and trees here on the grounds. So this is a woman that I like to say she's literally moving mountains. That's my kind of woman. All right? But I want to give you a sense, too, of what she's doing as his landscape architect. Because he writes her a letter, and he tells her, he says, I see no reason why my gardens can't be a confusion and profusion of colors and blooms. Now, you know, they've really pruned back the roses, but they're going to be blooming here pretty soon. But you're still going to get the fragrance of the flowers when we go through that Italian Renaissance-inspired rose garden. How are we doing so far, friends? We okay? All right, come on up. Let's come up the steps over here. Just mind your step.
That's how I like sleeping.
прикольно тут. Не знаю.
Even that's not enough for her. She wants to take it a step further, literally, step by step. What do you see the rises right there? See the lotus blossom again. Now here's the deal. She's well aware of the segment. She's the bloodthirsty protector of the sun god Ra. Well, where's the statue situated? What's being down on segment right now? Right? Now these statues, they came from Luxor, Egypt. He bought 2 at an auction in New York, the other 2 at an auction in London. She includes these statues right here where Segment is overlooking the Pacific Ocean. I love that sort of thing. So this gives you a chance to see, all right, here's her attention to detail. In fact, that balcony just beneath that, beyond that balcony, you have a man's study, his office. It's up there while he's working on his newspapers. This is a man that's working remotely about 100 years before COVID, right? And when you came up here as a guest, the staff, they would encourage you. They take your bags, your luggage, they take you into the room. They say, don't stay in your room all day. He wants you outside. He wants you enjoying the art that you see displayed about his grounds. But you got some social obligations. Come 7:30 in the evening, you and your fellow guests are going to gather right here at the spot, the main terrace. Now, his movie star companion, Marion Davies, she was the one that was really tasked with entertaining the guests during the day while he's upstairs working. She's the one that's taking them down below at that beach where they could have picnics. She's the one that's taking them to his pool so you could go swimming. Maybe you're playing tennis on the tennis court. Maybe you want to look at his zoo collection. He had one of the largest privately owned zoos in the country at the time. Over 90 different species. But come 7:30 in the evening, he's going to call down from that office to his staff and say, okay, open up the front door. Allow my guests to enter the house in the living room. He calls this the assembly room. It's this room where that casita, Casa del Monte, fits within, right? But he's going to leave you in that room for about an hour and a half, right? Well, why? He's a busy man. He's working on those newspapers, but he's an extremely smart man. He knows once you go through that double gate there, you're entering the first room to his home. And he wants to ensure that this room leaves a lasting first impression for his guests. This is why he's leaving them in there for so long before he decides to come on down and introduce himself to his fellow guests. So this is some of the fun stuff that we see on the outside. Are you ready to see the fun stuff that he has inside? Come on, let's go take a look. They're having a party. All right? Ready for the cocktails, right?
I know, right?
cartridge. Right? Now here's the thing, I'm a big believer that again, should the man be alive, and if he were in the room with us today, he'd tell you, take the time, study, scrutinize my Scipio tapestries, because in so doing, you are now sharing an experience with King Louis XIV of France, the Sun King. Right? These tapestries used to hang in the halls of Versailles. Here they are in this man's living room. Right? Julia Morgan, she's designing the room so we can marvel at them. She also has to take in the size of the fireplace here. 16th century, stone carved, came from France as well. The Burgundy region, the Chateau de Jour. He writes her a letter. He says, I finally secured the mantle that I want you to use in the assembly room. He says, I got full confidence you're going to be able to build a hall to receive it. How'd she do? Right? Right? Now, on the outside of the house, we talked about how it feels like a cathedral, right? Well, now you're inside. Do you feel like you're inside a cathedral? Well, really? Take a look at what they're using to line the walls right here. These are coming from Italy. These are choir stalls that were once used in Catholic churches. 15th century, 16th century. This is all just wall paneling for him. This is all just strictly done for decoration. He doesn't want you sitting on that. And would you want to? I wouldn't. I'd rather be sitting on this. The nice posh plush Barker Brothers furniture that's coming from LA in the 1930s. Look about the vestibule right there. There's a Latin inscription that translates the sacred altar be dedicated to the Virgin Mary. You're to see Mary. She's all over the place. It also goes on to commemorate St. Gregory. He's got St. Gregory here alongside of some of the first Catholic popes like St. Augustine, St. Ambrose, St. Jerome. And at the very bottom, the last devotion to the divinity of God. Right? Again, coming heavy-handed, want us to feel like we're in that cathedral, and it just makes me laugh because the guests are making merry over here, right? They're drinking those cocktails, and they're playing poker, they're gambling. But don't forget, you're supposed to be in a cathedral, okay? Right? How's everybody doing so far?
Great.
Yeah? Any questions about what you see? The ceiling, thank you. Okay. So, there's occasions, and for me, this is the beauty of the hilltop. There are occasions where he's only able to get portions of a piece. But then he's going to be relying upon Julia Morgan's team. He's going to say, fabricate the rest of the ceiling. So there's 21 coffers overhead. Of those 21 coffers, only 5 to 7 of those panels are carved out of walnut wood 400 or 500 years ago. That means the bulk of the ceiling had cast plaster reproduction that's been painted to look like walnut wood. Let me show you the ceiling in the dining hall over here. Right, see doors.
Came out of the wall.
selfie sticks, so if we can just make sure these things collapse while we're indoors.
And you can see where here in the dining hall, he lines the walls with 15th century Spanish choir walls. But you have that arch overhead, almost like hands folded in prayer. The intent behind that design is so when you go to church, you be looking up to heaven when you pray. Julia Morgan knows she loves that design so much. You can see she's got it above each and every one of the windows that surround us in the dining hall here. You can see they're above the doorways that lead back back into the assembly room, they even go across the fireplace, all to draw you up, look into that ceiling. Because what do you suppose? He's hoping you're going to be asking him questions about while you're enjoying your meal in this room. He's hoping you're going to be asking him, okay, Mr. Hurst, where'd you get this ceiling? How old is it? Who are all these? Pick up a tea, right? These two entryways on either side of me, they laid into my favorite room on the ground level of the house, which is his billiard room. I love that room. We'll see that next. But before we do, I got to briefly talk about this ceiling. The other two ceilings that I showed you, right, those were Italian ceilings. The Italians, they're known for their wood engraved furniture, but they're also known for their wood engraved ceilings, right? Now, this ceiling that we have overhead, what I love about it, it's one of the oldest that we have. We have over 30 antique ceilings in this man's home. And more often than not, I'd say about 9 times out of 10, what determines the overall size of a room is the size of a ceiling that he's dead set on using for a specific room. Now, in Spain, there's a bunch of pine trees. Pine's a soft wood. It's not the best to be carving into. So what are the Spaniards known for? They're painted ceilings, right? What I love about this ceiling, you look at its style, you look at its design, you're going to get a strong sense of just that Moorish influence that would really just kind of wash over Spain and take root, take hold for about, what, 700-800 years. All that's reflected by these geometric shapes that we see overhead, the 8-pointed stars. But even take a look at the exterior beams right here. You're going to see the Arabic writing. So I love this ceiling for the vibrant reds that we see and the golden hue to that Arabic writing. Right? But here's the ceiling that's just like that ceiling that we saw in the first room, the assembly room. It didn't fit the size of this room. But he tells Julie Morgan, you got to make it fit. So this is going to give you a chance again to see just the attention to detail that our workers are doing for her. All right, because this dark border that we see wrapping around the room here, this perimeter, all that was done here on site by Julia Morgan's team. However, they painted it to match how dark that ceiling used to look. You got to keep in mind that, throughout the centuries, this ceiling had collected massive amounts of soot and smoke from various fireplaces, from various oil-burning lamps. It didn't help matters that this was the smoking room too, right? So it would take one of our curators, Gary, 12 years just to clean that ceiling overhead, right? We used to have scaffolding in the center of the room right here where we got the tea set. And we'd be giving our tour, right? Our groups would be wrapped around him. He'd be on top of that scaffolding, sitting on a stool with these tools that were literally, they're like the size of Q-tips. He'd be dipping them in cleaning solution and just going over and over in finite circles, removing that century's worth of gunk and grime. It took him 12 years to do all of this. He got paid $3 million, which isn't bad if you ask me, right? But by him doing that, all that work, it was worth it. Because what does this mean? We're looking at the ceiling in a state that Hurst never even saw it in. What did it look like when it was put into this room? As dark as the border right there. So he never saw the vibrant reds. He never saw the golden hue to that Arabic writing. And because the ceiling is from the 15th century, I want to say roughly around 1420, it predates Columbus sailing the ocean blue. 1492, right? Come on, I want to show you another ceiling that Gary cleaned in the billiards room. Friends, how we doing so far? Everybody okay? All right, we got to be mindful of the people in the back, so keep on coming down, friends. Fill up on either side. Wherever you see that great format, we're good. I appreciate you all. Now, if you look about the room, especially when it comes to this man's art collection that we see displayed, everything that you see, it's going to show various scenes of entertainment. So definitely it goes well beyond the Brunswick tables that the guests were playing on in the 1920s. You can see he's got two different types of games here. You got one of my favorite games. You got pocket billiards or pool, and then on the opposite side you got a table with no pockets. You got snooker or carom billiards. That's a game that's really popular in France. And speaking of France, take a look at his Millefleur tapestry right here. Millefleur, French for 1,000 flowers. You're going to notice amongst all these flowers, there's a hunting scene. There's riders on horseback with their dogs. They're chasing the deer. But I don't think the deer's worried about it any. Look at him. He's smiling. He's getting away. Right? Now, flanking it on either side, you got Persian tiles. These tiles that we see, these are about 200-300 years old. And they got their various scenes of entertainment. There's a wedding scene above me here. You got musicians playing their instruments. You got ladies dancing. Now, this ceiling is people that were dining beneath. And he would have told you, 16th century Italian. It came from a monastery in Rome, and where the monks worshiped beneath this ceiling, Hurst and his guests, they get to dine beneath all these life-size representations of Catholic patron saints. But look at where he's seated, here at the center of the table. Who's he dining beneath? The Blessed Virgin Mary right there. You can see she's on top of a crescent moon. Now, in the Catholic faith, that's the moment that she's received the coronation, the grace of the final perseverance. And it's the only panel right here that you can see is surrounded by the cherubs' faces, the angels right there. Right? And I find that interesting because the woman that's seated opposite from him isn't his wife, whom he's still married to. It's that movie star girlfriend that's 30 years younger than him, Marion Davies. Right? They get to dine beneath Mary. Right? And that's not the only thing that's strategically kind of placed within the room here. Because look what's behind him in that glass case. That's a ceremonial mace. That's about 10 pounds of silver right there. That's a symbol of civic power, judgment, and authority. Now, do you think that was by happenstance that he had it placed right behind him? Absolutely not, right? That's to let the guests know. Who should you be listening to while you're enjoying your meal in this room? Who's holding court? Who has the floor? Well, he does. There's so much that's going on in this room. But what leaves the most lasting impression for the guests isn't any of this. It's what they see on the table out in front of them. Right? The bottles of ketchup and mustard. One of my favorite movie stars of that era, Cary Grant. Do you remember Cary Grant? Good, I'm glad to hear that. Cary Grant, I think of him as like the George Clooney of the day. Right? He's a ladies' man, he's a leading man, he's known for his practical jokes. He comes to the refectory. He says, I was expecting a meal befitting a king. He says, I was so surprised to see on the exact same tables amongst all this elaborate silver, paper napkins, bottles of ketchup and mustard. He says, Hurst even have them in serving saucers with a spoon inside. He just left them in the bottle like that. Well, why would he do such a thing? Because he's pulling your leg. You're coming over here. You're thinking you're coming to a castle. This is his little playful reminder. No, you're not at my castle. You're at my ranch. And it's his little ranch at 250,000 acres. That's about a third of the size of the state of Rhode Island. He owned a 1 million acre ranch in Chihuahua, Mexico. And he actually owned a castle in Wales, St. Donat's. But of these 7 palatial estates that he owned throughout his lifetime, this was his most favorite. He's here about 5 to 7 months out of the year. And the size of the table here gives you a chance to get a sense of the size of the guest list. Because he's only entertaining 12 to 20 people at any given time. The table here, it seats 22, 11 on either side. Right? And it's not always about the art history lesson up here. Even though he loves talking art, he does want you feeling like you're entertained. So I like music when I eat. So did he. Now I gotta listen to it on my phone. Imagine having your favorite band playing the loft above over there. Right? He liked country western music. So he invited the Sons of the Pioneers. The lead singer to that group was a gentleman by the name of Leonard Sly. Leonard Sly gets into movies, changes his name to Roy Rogers. He would play for Mr. Hurst his favorite song, which was Tumbling Tumbleweeds. He says, I probably played it a half a dozen times more. Just as we're about to end the song, Hurst wouldn't even look up from his plate. He'd just motion like that. We'd have to start it all over again. He says, after a while, he says, we were growing faint. We could smell the food walking up to the loft above there. He says, we were so worried, though, that should we slip, we'd be impaled by this 14th century Spanish choir screen, the reja. Now, in a Spanish cathedral, that would separate the choir from the rest of the congregation. But here in Mr. Hurst's home, it separates the dining hall from the smoking parlor in the back. Right? Because everybody smoked back in those days. Friends, how are we doing so far? We okay? All right, come on, let's go take a look at that smoking parlor. the official name of this room is the morning room. And why they're calling it that is because what the vestibule overlooks, it faces out to weeks. So in the morning, you get a phenomenal view of the sunrise from the center of the mountains back. So this room would capture the most daylight in the morning. But it's going to see the most use by the guests during the evening. Right? This is the room where, both genders, the men and the ladies, they'd be able to retire after they enjoyed that 5-course meal. Ladies, you're that favorite movie star. You want to touch up your makeup. You would have gone through that door over there. That leads into the powder room. This door over here, that leads into the kitchen. That gave the kitchen staff direct access into this room where they could be serving the guests. Might be enjoying it. It would take Gary 8 years to clean. So yeah, you want job security, you can become a conservator. Right? You get paid really, really well, and you get to work touching up really nice pieces of art. Right? What I love about this ceiling, the frieze that wraps around the room here, you're going to notice all these bullfighters, 15th century ones. And then if you look at the beams here, you might see knights on horseback. They're galloping toward one another, jousting. So anything to do with entertainment, it's going to be in this man's entertainment room. My favorite piece in here, to the corner of the room there, you got the old 1930s RCA Tombstone radio. Now I told you, Hearst, he likes country western music. But you got to keep in mind, this is the jazz age. And a lot of the guests coming up are movie stars. So I like to imagine them, they're shooting pool. They might be listening to a favorite big band of that era. They could be listening to Duke Ellington, Glenn Miller, Ben Goodman, Count Basie, the sort. But the primary source of entertainment up here, right? Now, after dinner, the guests would have about an hour where they could mingle, they're enjoying cigarettes, they're playing pool. But after that, you're going to join Mr. Hearst and your fellow guests in the hallway into the largest room of the house that I'm going to show you, which is his movie theater. So as we make our way into the hallway there, you're going to notice that whole player piano. Now that's not set up to ring the bells anymore. But at one time they would use that to ring those carillon bells in the bell towers. The first time that those bells would ring, April 29th, 1934, for Mr. Hearst's 71st birthday party. And what tune do you think those bells are playing? Happy birthday, right? And he'd do that for anybody. You're coming up here, it's your birthday. He wants everyone in the area to know it's your birthday. Those bells are ringing happy birthday. If you're a worker of his and it's your birthday, he wants everyone in the area to know it's your birthday. Those bells are ringing happy birthday. Another perk working for Hearst, you got to watch the movie that hadn't even been released yet to the general public, but you're watching it with the stars and the director of that movie. So let's go to the movies.
Probably old age. He's rich. He had so many good doctors. She was one of the first ladies to win an Academy Award, and she didn't get it for fashion. So she got on about 50 different Bobcat belts. Now the blonde woman on the left here in the Argyle sweater, that's our hostess. That's Marion Davies. She's about 33, 34 years Mr. Hurst Jr. She got her start in motion pictures during the silent era, and that makes her very dear friends with that gentleman over there. Does anyone recognize who that is? Chaplin? Yeah, absolutely, Charlie Chaplin. He was a frequent guest up here. He had an open invitation, come up whenever he felt like it.
There's other two. There's more than that.
He wasn't here to go. Yeah, exactly. And then this Cary Grant, after Cary Grant called this Lover's Lane. He said he would take his girl out after the film and stroll through Lover's Lane.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's try to jam a little more.
Прям как в этих спартанских.
His art collection is not priced. He lucked out. He came in at a very good time in his life. That's for sure. Yeah, it's a pleasure having you. Thank you for take care. I appreciate you, sir. Thank you. You guys take care. My pleasure. Absolutely. Thank you. It's a pleasure having you.
Yeah, we'll think of it in the reception.
He was a member of the state assembly in California.
I'm sorry, it's right? I think it. Sorry, sorry.